Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 5. Here at this channel we do a quick therapeutic review where we utilize the internal family systems model as a basis to really understand what's happening with these couples and also potentially learn a little bit about ourselves. If you are returning, please like the video and of course subscribe to the channel, and now let's get into it. First we have Dominique and McKinley. I have to say, very similar to what I felt from Jasmine and Eris last episode, that there doesn't seem to be a lot of conversation that's of substance, of them getting to know each other. There's a lot of flirtation, there's a lot of laughter, but there's not a lot of sharing of each other. And so that's given me some concern about this couple. I know that actually someone commented on my last review that allegedly McKinley was recruited for this show. And I know they've done it in the past. So this couple is in a place where if third party was not involved, or someone else didn't say I want you to do this, right, then they would not be doing this. Her mother signed her up for this, and also Maths reached out to him to do the show, which makes sense as to why he would relocate from Michigan to Nashville without any footing, right? So that takes me down another road with Maps where I wish they would not recruit, but at the same time, I guess if there's not enough people to do the show, but it just really sets couples up for failure even before they walk down an aisle. And we see it really in their engagement. They seem to have a great connection. They seem to be flirting and making great eye contact with each other. And at the same time, I don't know much about McKinley, and I don't know much about Dominique, like them as a person. We know that Dominique has a great relationship with her mother. She loves fishing. She loves Nashville. We know that McKinley is from Michigan, and he loves boobs. That's what we know. Like that's what I know. That's what he has shared with us. But I don't know much, and that his mom did not want him to do this. We know that. That's about it. Not a lot of them sharing of themselves, of their past relationships, of their child experiences. Nothing. So what we do see though is that there is some attraction there, and there is some comfortability there with each other, and they're feeling at this point that things are going well. We do see that McKinley has this part, and we saw this last episode as well with the flight situation. There's a part that's cautious, maybe has some concerns about safety, and so there's some anxiety there. And Dominique sees this and she's like, okay, I would really want him to be more open-minded, but I'm going to take it in stride. And he usually does what he says he won't do, to try to push himself to be more adventurous. So that's a way that they can balance each other. And we'll see how Dominique's tolerance level is with the part of him that's carrying some anxiety, about his safety, about doing things that are potentially dangerous. They were getting on a boat, and he was a little concerned about that and concerned about sharks and the like. So we'll see how this plays out in their relationship, and how Dominique will be able to encourage him to be more adventurous and at the same time be patient with him. Does she have that skill? We'll see. She's 25. And patience, that's a characteristic that comes definitely with a lot of life experience. And so we'll see if she's able to be patient with the part of him that is carrying some anxiety, as of course McKinley Hopefully he takes care of himself, this part of him, and maybe even get curious about what he fears will happen, right? If it's that he's physically harmed or afraid to try new things. We'll see. McKinley he's leading with humor, joking a lot with Dominique, and she's trying her best. You can tell there's some courtesy laughs there, and at the same time you can tell that she really doesn't find him very funny, right? But she's playing along. I'm curious as to if it really seems like this part of him that's leading with the humor is afraid to, right? It's a protection, afraid to share of himself. This is a big thing, sharing very vulnerable pieces of your life and your story on national television. So I don't know if they're having more private conversations off camera, but they seem to be just very flirty and laughy and giggly on camera. And so my hope is that that's happening, because it seems like their foundation is pretty shallow at this point. I don't see like any building blocks happening to further their connection. They have a really cute moment in the pool together as they do dessert, and McKinley, definitely has let Dominique know how much he appreciates and loves her body. And it seems like there is a part of him that is wanting to show that appreciation by being physically intimate with her. And I'm also hoping that he's showing the same interest with getting to know her as a person off camera, because we're not really seeing it on camera as of yet. So there was some very interesting footage in a clip next week, so we shall see how this all plays out. Next we have Jasmine and Eris. Eris as well is leading with his humor. It's so interesting. He really doesn't show a lot of emotion on his face, where like with his eyes, where he communicates any emotion. If that's not there, and at the same time, when he is being affectionate or trying to communicate some support, you do feel that it's genuine. It's just also he does things sometimes that give me a lot of pause. So they are having breakfast together, and Eris keeps giving Jasmine a hard time about this bacon. She likes bacon. You don't like bacon. Let her have her bacon. They are getting to know each other's relationship history. And so Eris is saying that he really never committed to anyone, and that he really didn't show really true interest in making a real commitment and connection with his past relationships, and that he was young and immature, and it was really on him. I'm hearing that. Then I'm also hearing, I thought that he really didn't have a lot of relationship experience or any of that matter. So there's a part of me that's saying, is this honest? Are we trying to say that you do have relationship experience but just didn't commit fully to be open to the process? Or do you just not have relationship experience but you don't want to share that with Jasmine because you're getting to know each other? There's some inconsistencies there. Jasmine stated that she is usually the one to end her relationships as well, because she usually does not get what she needs from a relationship. And she is also a workaholic. She has a lot of jobs, and she knows that, she said, somewhere along the lines in this marriage, she's going to have to shift her schedule, and that's going to be a lot for her. Somewhere, I really feel at the beginning is when it's necessary, especially because they're getting married at first sight. There has to be some type of bend, and she's juggling quite a bit as well. Her mother is going through treatments for cancer, so she's got a lot of balls she's juggling, being a dog groomer, having 13 dogs, and being a cheerleading coach. All of that's a lot. And where does Eris fit in? Where does all of this process fit in. Now, this is where, right? This is a part where Eris shows that there is this tender side. I want to know if it's genuine. And at the same time, he's offering support, saying that, well, you're juggling a lot. I'll step in and I'll help. Like, I'll walk all these dogs. So he's making some humor out of it. He's like, I'll walk all these dogs. He's like, your mother is very fond of me. I love her. We can go to the hospital and cheer her up. And she said, well, you can come with me. And he said, sure, I would love to lift her spirits like that. And Jasmine saying that this is something that she really hasn't had before, having someone to be this supportive. And so she's waiting to see if Eris really means that he's going to be present for her in this way. Jasmine and Eris are snorkeling together, and because of Eris's beard, they have some issues where the water is like seeping through and he's struggling, and Jasmine comes in to be like nurturing, and Eris notes that and he's appreciative of that. I'm hoping too, like in the moment he shared that with her, like, I really appreciate how you looked out for me. And I didn't see any footage of that, but I'm hoping in the moment he was able to communicate that with her, because that again will continue to help them to build more of an emotional foundation. They're doing again a lot of joking, a lot of flirting. Jasmine is loving the fact that she gets to see Eris and his swimming gear and all the like, and that's beautiful. Attraction is important, and physical chemistry is important, and a major building block is going to be emotional safety and intimacy. That's going to be a huge thing. And so they're having a candlelight dinner with each other, and Jasmine says, so, as you know, are there any things that you want to know about me? And Eris asks what's her favorite sexual position. And Jasmine is completely taken back by this question. I wonder if Eris picked up the fact that her father was a minister. I think, of course, Eris has a part of him that's definitely humorous, uses that to connect with people. And at the same time, again, like I said with McKinley, this seems to be a protector of truly getting to know who Eris really is. Like, has he shared with her about his father and him being murdered when he was younger? Like, has he shared that to her? I'm curious if they've had those conversations. But he's having this conversation. He said, okay, so I'll tiptoe around it. Okay, what's your favorite color? And she said, lavender. And he said, well, did you know that, statistically, women whose favorite color is lavender like this position? I'm like, okay, Eris, okay. It was funny. And at the same time, you could tell also it's making Jasmine a little uncomfortable. There's a part of her that's very modest because of her upbringing. And so it's not something that she shares a lot with and talks a lot about. She also said in her confessional that it's still an area of exploration for her. And she's hoping that her husband will be able to assist her in that. And Eris is already speaking to the fact that he will help her in this area, and that he is open and ready for whatever she needs in this area. And that's wonderful. He's offering so much support. And at the same time, I would love to see both of them sharing a little bit more with each other. They did share when they were on the beach, I believe it was. They were playing frisbee. It's so interesting. Somehow you could tell how production is like staging some of these scenes, but they were playing, with the frisbee on a beach, and they were talking about being in love. Like, have you ever been in love? And Eris confessed that he has never been in love before. And this is definitely taking Jasmine a bit back, right? So this is, again, we're seeing that there's definitely some parts of Eris that are protecting him, like, and keeping this wall up and protecting his emotions. And so that could be a lot of things, right? He talked about, I believe he said at 28 years old, he was ghosted and he put up a wall. And so, he doesn't let anyone in. And I'm curious if he's still there, right? He's still there, or there's even other things that we don't yet know about Eris, because we know that his father passed. We know that he hasn't had a big relationship history, and that he's been out in the streets, and we know that he has a very protective cousin, right? And at the same time, more about him as a person. I'm curious even if Eris knows who he is. I'm really leaning to that he may still be getting to know who Eris is. And so it's hard to introduce yourself to someone if you don't know who you are. And so Jasmine is concerned and saying, okay, so are you saying that after or during this process, are you going to need to be in love in order to make a decision? And it seems in this moment that this question, it seems to be a projection question, right? There's a part of her that wants to be in love in order to make a decision on decision day. But she asked Eris, and Eris said, well, I don't see that there's any possibility, which is honest, that I would be in love in 8 weeks because I just haven't experienced it before. He said, but I'm open to it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't think that that's possible or feasible at this time. And so Jasmine is, you can see that there's some protection coming up. Her eyes are, she's thinking. And so maybe there will be a part of her that's like living in her head a little bit about this, because this is concerning. It's concerning. Eris is not a spring chicken. He's 39 years old. And to be 39 years old and not had one relationship where you experienced an in-love moment. He said he did love people and had love for people, cared about them, but never opened his heart up to be in love, to be vulnerable, to put himself all the way out there with someone. That's telling. Next we have Nicole and Chris. Chris and Nicole are having some breakfast with each other. She is excited about her French toast. And Chris is sharing that he really appreciated and enjoyed their transparency that they shared with each other last night. And that he's hoping, that this can really continue. And he said that he can see himself, right? He can see himself falling in love with her. This is very early to be saying this. And at the same time, I'm glad that he's open to it, right? I'm glad that he's open to it as well. So as an activity, they're doing a rum tasting where they're doing 7 shots of rum. And that's a lot. And Nicole is feeling it. She's going with it. There's a part of her that's saying like, wow, I thought we were just sipping. I didn't know we were taking shots. And then the gentleman who was walking them through the rum testing teaches them dance moves, and I feel like this is setting them up for disaster. Like they're, a little intoxicated and learning some dance moves on camera. I feel for them in this moment, but Chris was, he was really feeling himself in those dance moves. And Chris, even though Chris has a part of him that can be very nice and self-sacrificing, there is a part of him that is very sure of himself and affirming of himself. I'm curious if that's going to show up in his actions, right? So when I say that someone has a part of them that is like he has a part of him that's self-sacrificing, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, right? But this is a way that he could be protecting himself, it seems, right? And we all have ways that we protect ourselves. Whether we're aware of them or not, have parts of us that do interact in relationships. That's when our our true wounds show in our relationships and how we respond to others, because relating with someone is a risky thing. And this situation is a very risky thing. And so people who are going through this process, they're going to protect themselves. They're going to protect themselves and look out for themselves because it's such a big risk. We're seeing, though, that with Nicole and Chris, there is more vulnerability there. There is more connection that they're building, and so that is awesome to see. And both of them are leaning in the process that way. And at the same time, Chris is still being, there is some like assertiveness there. And I don't know if this is a muscle that he's grown and developed over time, but he is talking a good game, right, with the assertiveness. I want to see if that also plays out in action in the moment. Nicole shares that after doing this rum tasting experiment and experience, that is taking her back to old Nicole. She said where she was just drinking and partying a lot, and she was very selfish and, very demanding, and this is taking Chris aback. He said that, if he would have met old Nicole, that it probably wouldn't worked out because it's something that he's dealt with in his past relationship. So it's something that he's going to keep his eye out for. Nicole did say that she said this shift happened from old Nicole to new Nicole and when she was 28 years old. And that happened after she moved to Nashville. And I'm like, okay, she's only been in Nashville for about, 2 to 3 years? At the taping, about 2 years. And so I'm curious as to what that growth process was, how that was developed. I know a lot of people did a lot of growing and self-development and even self-exploration during the pandemic, because really you had yourself, right? You had to attend to you when everything was shut down. So I'm curious. I want to know more about that process for her. And at the same time, I'm really hoping that whatever old Nicole was seeking and looking for, she's received in herself. There is a part of me that feels like there's some needs that she still is looking for, right? Because she is looking for affirmation. She is looking for a validation. Which are all things that we all want, right? And at the same time, her response to them seems to be like it has been a well that has been dry for a long time. So I want to see how this plays out, right? Old Nicole versus new Nicole, and how this plays out in their relationship. And so they're continuing on with their forward moving, jumping into some heavy conversations. And so Chris is asking, so let's talk about kids. How do you feel about kids? And Nicole says, I never wanted kids. I really didn't want kids at all. And I just, kept moving along. And then once I started getting into some relationships and thinking, and I got curious, like, why don't I want to have children? What is that about? She didn't say what she discovered when asking herself that question. And at the same time, she did say that she's more open to it, but it's not something that she's jumping into doing, right? And there's a part of her that's really concerned about her career because it's growing, and, will her career be growing and the timing for the children not be matched together? Chris is saying that he wants 2 children, boy and a girl, and that he is open to continuing to have a conversation about it. And at the same time, he's not budging. It doesn't seem like he's budging, right? Nicole said in her confessional that she feels like her and Chris are on the same page. And I wonder if she's really hearing Chris, right? Because what I heard was, we'll continue to have this conversation because I hear you and I know what I also want, right? I feel like also this conversation doesn't need to be prolonged for a year. Like, they need to continue to have this conversation throughout this 8-week process about whether they're going to have children or not, and whether there's going to be some type of agreement, because Nicole's concerns that she does have, though, is right. This seems like something that's very important to Chris. And if she isn't willing to have children or not open to it, how will that impact their relationship? I also have a bone of contention with Maps, because it seems like this happens almost every season, or if not every other season. They mismatch people who want children versus someone who doesn't want children. And I'm like, hello. This is kind of disheartening a little bit, because this couple was one of the ones that was like most likely to work. This kids thing could be a real huge barrier, right? It could be a no-go, especially if Chris is really passionate about becoming a father and really vocal about that, like, right? Vocal about that with her. We'll see how it comes up, right, in this 8-week process, if he's going to continue to bring it up and have further discussion about it. Next, we have Kirsten and Shaquille. And so they finally get to head to Jamaica, and very excited. Shaquille also shared how he really appreciated Kirsten being there with him, and how he felt the support from her, and how that's something that he's really never had before. So he's really, really excited about her, like really excited about Kirsten. Like, he really feels like she's the person for him. He truly believes that. And they're very cuddly. They're always close, and they're looking at each other. Like, when Kirsten looks at Shaquille, it's very much intentional, like trying to connect with him. And she says she's really feeling more like warming up to him. And at the same time, Shaquille stated that on the after party that Kirsten tells him off camera not to touch her. And so he's in a place where he's confused and doesn't know what to do. And I am confused with Shaquille as well. Kirsten seems to have some walls up about touch. I'm curious about what that means for her, what her experiences have been with touch, because some people experience a lot of touch in their upbringing, hugs and kisses on the head and cheek and things like that. Sometimes people don't have that in their upbringing, and so touch can be something that feels uncomfortable because of that, because a part of them has made them feel like touch isn't something they need, when really it is. Touch is actually a human need. It's something that we do need in order to feel connected. And our brain releases hormones to, like, happy hormones, oxytocin, when we get a hug, because it's such a comforting thing. It's something that's needed. And so she says she doesn't kiss. She's not a kisser. And so I am definitely curious about that, about what that means. Kissing is something that's very intimate. It's a very intimate thing. She said hand holding is something she likes, and touching is something that she likes. So they're headed in the right direction, it seems. But I'm still got some question marks. Shaquille and Kirsten go on ATVs, and we learned that Kirsten is very adventurous. She has been on ATVs before. Shaquille, not so much, which makes sense. He had a huge car accident at 7 years old, and so there's a part of him that's been very cautious about just risk and his safety. And so he's taken it in stride, though. He's not really excited about doing the ATV, but he's doing it because it's something that Kirsten wants to do, and he's being safe, though. Kirsten, on the other hand, is going full speed ahead, leaving him in the dust, and she's not feeling the type of way about it. She's enjoying herself. And so I kind of like that, she's taking it in stride and like accepting his pace, not giving him flack about it, and also having her experience, right? Having her experience on the ATVs. She also said that she's proud of him and she's beginning to be more fond of him. And we see this as they're sitting in this like swing chair. I love those little swing chairs. And they're like very intimate, looking at each other's eyes. And Shaquille said he still has butterflies from the wedding day. Like every time he sees her, she's just so beautiful. She said, well, what about when I wake up in the morning and my hair is all over the place? And he said, that's when I feel like you're the most beautiful. And I said, okay, Shaquille, okay. And then Kirsten kind of lets the cat out of the bag, but she's doing it in a very nice way. She's doing kind of subtle, right? It still put a little, you could tell it took a little steam out of Shaquille's engine a little bit. But she said, I'm really beginning to be more attracted to you. And he said, more attracted? What? Wait a minute. And she said, well, the bald head, that was something that was a lot for me. And he said off camera, well, I could tell like she rubs my bald head. So maybe that's her way, right? Her way of trying to embrace it and really cling to him. I see that, at least on camera, that Kirsten's doing some work to move towards him. I do see that. I'm curious about off camera what that is, because it seems like maybe there's two different Kirstens, and if that's the case, Shaquille's gonna say something. He's very forward about what he's feeling and thinking, which is a strength, right? I think during this process, communication is truly important. It's truly important. And for them to be on the same page and make sure that each other knows where each other is, right? To again build that intimacy. And so they have their romantic dinner together, and they're both complimenting each other. And Shaquille's saying like, hey, when we connect with each other, we talk a lot about my education, about my experiences and the like, but I really want to know more about you and Kirsten. And she said, I don't know if it was the pandemic, but for some reason, I just have been really closed off. And it's great that she's aware of that. And she knows it's a her thing, right? Even with the kissing thing, she said, it's a me thing, and I'm working on it. I'm curious about what that's about. There seems to be, right, some backstory to that. And this, again, a way of protection. And so I'm curious about what it is that is making her feel more, more subdued, more closed off. She did say that she was in a relationship where someone was unfaithful to her. So I don't know if that's what this is, contributing to. We're still, getting to know their story. And Kirsten says that she really needs Shaquille to be more supportive to her and continuing to be emotionally available for her. And I think that that's great that she's communicating that. And at the same time, I also feel like, man, that's also putting Shaquille in a very vulnerable space where he's giving, right? Giving of himself, he's sharing of his story and the like. And he's not getting it back in return from her, right? And there needs to be some movement towards each other. It doesn't have to be at the same speed, but there does need to be some movement, right? So there can be some type of safety in the relationship. Because after a while, if he's moving towards her and she's still here, and he's gonna be like, wait, I see I'm all in and you're not, and that's going to definitely put him on alert and draw to his protectors, right, to protect himself. So I'm hoping that Kirsten can get to the bottom of what is, right, what's keeping her more closed off. Shaquille said, well, okay, how can I be supportive to you? What does that look like? And Kirsten said, sometimes it feels like you are talking at me, and not connecting with me, not sharing who you are. And he said that he does have sometimes like trying to practice. There's a part of him that's overthinking and trying to present the perfect answer. And you can tell, right, that part of him that on their wedding day was like, look what I can do, right? That part of him is looking at his presentation like, this is Shaquille and he has these qualities and he's really great. And that's how he's, right, trying to make Kirsten like him, because he is definitely smitten with her. And so I believe that he has his overthinking part because she's so closed off. And so there has to be somewhere, right, where they meet in the middle and have the discussion and talk about what it is, right, what it is that's making her closed off, so that there can be some type of empathy and compassion and understanding, and hopefully some forward movement towards each other. Right, forward movement towards each other. But Shaquille stated that, he did note that he does have this part of him that's overthinking and wants to say the perfect thing, and he's going to really try to be more relaxed and be himself. And I'm hoping Kirsten is going to work to be more open. Last, we have Clint and Gina, and they have had quite a go of it. On the after party, we learned that they almost missed their flight, but then they caught it. But then once they got to Jamaica, they lost their luggage and they had to buy clothes from the gift shop, the first few days to have clothes, right? But they have made the best out of this. And even their excursions that they were planning with each other, all the flips and dips and turns that they had to wait for a bus, and they were scared because the bus was driving off a cliff almost, and they were hanging in there, right, with each other. But it seems like they're both appreciating each other's presence. They get along with each other. Clint is leading with the humor, right? And it seems like that's what is the theme of this season, all right? Clint's leading with the humor, and at the same time, though, he is showing some interest in Gina and giving like some affirming words along the way. Like when they finally made it to the waterfall, he said, I'm really taken back and surprised about how level-headed you stayed, like how calm you stayed with all the different things that have happened in the last couple of days. And she's like, I'm just taking it in stride, and taking the punches as they come. And she said that she really appreciates having Clint by her side through all of this. She also stated that she's seeing that Clint is definitely someone who just goes with the flow. He's all about adventure, right? And she's one that's more structured. She said a little bit more structured, but it seems like maybe a lot of bit more structured, and that's okay. And at the same time, she said she's hoping that Clint's going to help her embrace and loosen up a little bit, and maybe adventure can be, the theme, right, of their relationship, which it seems like it has been, with all the turns and crazy things that have happened since they've been on their honeymoon. As they return back to the room, Gina shares that, she really wants someone who's going to be supportive of her, because she's got a lot of stress in her life with her business and everything. And she also wants someone who's going to appreciate her independence and not take it as something that's going to be offensive or a ding against their manhood, as that's been something that's been in the past. And Clint asks, well, have you ever dated someone or been in a relationship with someone who was a contributor? She said no. And so that's something that maybe hopefully Clint can provide, right, for her. And she said that she's growing to have some admiration for Clint, right? So again, the part of Gina that was saying that, yeah, he's hot to her family, seems like maybe she was being friendly and trying to put forth her best effort and not being completely honest with his friends and family. As the next scene, they have a pretty awkward conversation. It was a little heavy, as Clint is saying, man, I really see that we are getting along with each other, our connection, and how we're interacting with each other. Man, it just seems to be going really well. Like, this is nice. And she said, yeah. And, I just don't feel the physical connection or, as of yet. And, hopefully that will grow over time. And so Clint is taking this in stride. He's like, yeah. He said, well, it's not really on my end either, but I really, think we can move through this because we get along so well together. And she said, yeah, because, like the one thing I asked or said, I just really don't like ginger features. And so then you can tell this is like a hit to Clint. Like, it's like 1, 2. And even Shaquille stated at the after party that Clint really, really likes his hair. Like, it's a feature of him that he really loves. And so the fact that the color of his hair is something that Gina doesn't find very attractive, that could be a sting. And you can tell he is hurt, right? His feelings are hurt by this. And Gina stated at the after party that she didn't realize how awkward and tough that conversation was for them. Watching it back, she said, oh, that was really painful. And yes, I concur. That's really painful. I wonder what makes this happen on the honeymoon. This is a common theme that happens on the honeymoon. Chris and Paige. I know I probably activated you just even saying those names. Mitch last season. Like, what is it that on the honeymoon this is shared? I think it's just getting to know each other. Well, even Jamie first season on the wedding day, I mean, she was crying because she just was not attracted to Doug. So I really think that this is going to be a sore space in their relationship. As we see next week, it gets even worse. Let me know your thoughts about these couples, because this was a bit rough episode, especially for Clint and Gina. Will they be able to bounce back from this? Dominique and McKinley, is it more than just attraction, or is it just physical attraction? Will Kirsten and Shaquille move towards each other and really be honest and let go, right, of some of these protectors that they're seeing? You can tell Shaquille's just like, please like me because I really like you. And Kirsten's like, I don't know, right? She's moving at her own pace. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there definitely needs to be some movement towards Shaquille in order to make this work, right? Will Nicole and Chris be able to come to a compromise with this children issue? This is a big thing. Will Jasmine be able to allow herself to remain open in this process? And will Eris open his heart and allow himself to be truly open to this process? We shall see. If you are still with me, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.